In this video you will learn everything you need to know about Godot TileMaps. If you ever played Mario, Pokémon or Stardew Valley games, you should be familiar with the concept. You have this big palette with all possible blocks to use and a canvas itself, your game, where you can place those blocks. This is a good place to name those two. Palette is called TileSet, and the canvas, so grid with placed tiles, is called TileMap. We'll create both of them in just a second, but first let's find some resources. You can find TileSet resources on sites like itch.io, Kenny assets like this one for example, or Open Game Art, where you can also search for TileSet and preview all different beautiful graphics. I will use itch.io this time, and here I can search for TileSets or TileMaps. Actually, often people call it simply TileMaps, and here you can see a ton of beautiful packs to choose from. I will go with this one. With this package you can either pay at least $5 and get a whole pack, but for our purposes we can just go with the free download for the TileSet sample. To do that, click download now, click no thanks, just take me to downloads, but if you really like it, please go ahead and donate, and that will open this screen where you can download those files. Before we'll start working Godot, this video has been brought to you by my website, CoCodeLearn. We are in the process of building the best site with online courses for Godot and Unity. Check out free Godot Mastery course, Master Unity UI course, which just dropped 4 extra hours of content, and more. Link in the description. Inside the downloaded package, you can see that we have, for example, the TileSet folder with all different tilesets and props with, I don't know, signs, trees, and so on. Let's take this whole folder and import it to Godot. For this video, I will go with 2D scene, and let's start right off by creating a TileMap layer. So create new node and search for TileMap. Notice that we have both TileMap and TileMap layer. In my previous video you might remember that I used TileMap, but since then TileMap node has been deprecated and now Godot advises you to use TileMap layer instead, so let's do that. As you can imagine, TileMap layer holds the whole grid of our tiles, but first we need to define what will be our palette, what will be the tileset. So to do that, here on the right inspector, click on tileset and click add new tileset. That already enables this fancy grid here, which is a good sign. Then we need to define all the graphics we'll be using. And here at the very bottom, instead of TileMap, which is a tool to draw tiles on the map, we first need to go to TileSet to define all the graphics which we'll be using. So I will go here to TileSet, and first I would like to import this Spring tileset. Before importing it, it is important to make sure if we are using the correct tile size. You can define tile size here when you click on tileset, and here you have tile size. By default it's 16 by 16, which is very universal. A lot of tilesets use this resolution if they are using pixel art style, but it's good to make sure. So for example here I will open this in File Manager. This Spring tileset, for example, when I go to information and size, is 80 by 48 pixels. You can see that vertically you can split that into 3 parts, so that will be the first one, that will be the second one, and that will be the third. So when you divide 48 by 3 you get 16, so the default value is alright. Otherwise just modify this tile size here. So I will take the summer PNG graphic and drag it here into the tiles. And now Godot asks us if we'd like to automatically split it into tiles. click yes. And that way we now have this nice graphic split into multiple tiles. And guess what? We can actually already use them to create our design. Switch to TileMap so that you will be able to draw on the map. And now maybe let's zoom into our scene. And first select which tile you'd like to draw. So let's say we start with this edge. And now click on the canvas to start drawing. I can now select different tile and different one, draw, and so on and so on. We have a few tools to make our drawing much simpler. So first one is pencil, which is self-explanatory. We just draw however we want. The second one is line, which is great for, let's say, this left edge. I can just draw in the straight line. The next one, which is my favorite, is rectangle tool. So for example, if I would like to fill in this middle part, I can just draw a rectangle like that. And the last one is filling tool, bucket, however you want to call it. Usually you use bucket to fill out the empty space in the middle, but as you can see, this bucket is actually quite smart because it allows you to fill out this space while it's not in the middle. It's still quite smart to determine that you may want to fill it out, okay? And if you make any mistake, you can always use this eraser. So just click on it and start erasing some stuff. You can also use eraser by using right button on your mouse. So I can draw with the left button and erase with the right one. So I will now quickly draw some land here so that we'll have some space in our game. Okay, and now let's press play and test how will it look like. Okay, as you can see, it's already visible in our game, but we have some issues. The first one is that it is extremely small. So let's fix that by clicking on our TileMap layer, then go to transform, and here we can modify the scale of our TileMap. So I will zoom in. As a reminder, this blue line is the screen edge once we run our game. So I will try to change the scale so that our map will fill the entire space. Okay, I think that looks nice. Let's try it out. Yes, now our TileMap looks much better. And the second issue is obviously with pixels, because currently they are blurry. To fix that, still in TileMap layer, go to texture, filter, nearest. That makes edges of our graphics pixelated, which looks much better in our game. Okay, time for the next step. I would like to add some hills to our map. So let's click on our TileMap layer, make sure we are in the TileSet tab, and I will import this dirt simplified PNG this time. Let's split it automatically once more, and let's say I would like to draw this part, so I go to TileMap, click on this part, switch to pencil, I will start drawing, but there is an issue with that. The reason why we have those weird transparent holes here is that we are trying to draw dirt on the same layer where we already drawn grass. So by drawing these dirt tiles here, we are basically replacing the grass. To fix that, or to avoid this issue, we need to create another layer. The easiest way to do it is to just right click on our existing layer, duplicate it, then clear everything we already drawn, so this grass, and now I can start drawing our hill, and you can see that this time we do not collide with the grass below. You can also see that when we switched layers, Godot gives a visual feedback which layer is currently active. So now we have second layer active. When I go back to grass, we can clearly see that we'll be drawing on the grass. Okay, so let's go back to drawing some hills. I will discard those weird things we drawn, and now let's say I would like to draw the whole hill, so I do not need to manually click each tile one by one, but I can immediately select all of them here in the tile map on the bottom and draw it on the map, or rather place it on the map immediately. Let's preview how does it look like. And yes, obviously in the final game you do not see this darkened grass, because we can see all layers at once, and you can see both the grass and the hills. And now I have this idea to create a bound around the whole map, so that our player won't be able to exit the grass and fall into the void. Let me do that quickly. Notice that in case of those tiles, you may need to do some trickery to have those edges look nice, and instead of simply using one of the default ones, you can try to use one on the right. So for example, in this edge, I think this one will fit. For this edge, similarly this one. For the edges at the top, let's try to use this one and then this one. Yeah. And for this edge, those two. Okay, finally I will also fix this hill, because it doesn't look right after some changes. Maybe let's extend it. And yes, this is how our bounds look like. This is how they look in the game. Once we'll have a player, those dirt bounds will keep him on the map. Okay, let's add grass graphics to make it a bit more interesting. So, let's create one more layer. Of course, let's remove everything on it. And import our grass graphic, go to TileSet, drag in this one, yes. And now we can start painting. Drawing grass is quite tedious, because you can't just draw around, it will look very ugly. You need to keep it a bit randomized, but the good news is that there is a built-in tool to do that for you. You can click on this dice, then select how much random scattering you'd like to introduce, so let's say 2. And now when you will be painting, you can notice that I'm clicking mouse all the time, but Godot is only sometimes placing grass. That way you can quite easily create more randomized grass or any other tile, whatever suits you. Here is how our tile map looks so far. Just click on any other node and you will be able to preview it all at once. The good news is that you already knew the basics, but let's extend your knowledge so that you will be able to create even better tile maps yourself. First of all, I think it is important to clean up our nodes, so first I will name them grass, then we have hills, and finally let's call it props. Then I think it is important to reparent them to one node, so that we'll be able to easily manage the whole tile map, no matter how many layers it has. I can just select all of them using Shift, then right click and select reparent to new node. This node doesn't need to be TileMap or anything, just select a simple empty node. I will call it simply TileMap. You can notice that now when we'll be working on different layers, in Godot you can use these arrows here in the tile map, and you can very easily switch between those layers. So you don't even need to use the Scene tab to change layer, you can just use those arrows. Okay, and one more thing we can clean up, or at least help us in the future. Notice here that here in the tileset we have multiple graphics. So when we want to draw grass, we need to switch to it. When we want to draw dirt, you switch to it, and so on and so on. I think it would be much easier to combine those graphics into one, so that you will have a complete canvas of all possible terrains to choose from. That is even more important for some packs, because in many texture packs you get each tile as a separate image. It would be nightmare to constantly switch between, I don't know, 500 images to draw them on the map. First, import all the tiles you'd like to combine. So I will also import this fall, spring, and winter here. Yes. Then click on those small three dots and select Open Atlas Merging Tool. Here we need to select which graphics we'd like to merge. So I will select this one, and this one, this one, this one, this one. You can see a preview here. Click Merge. I prefer to click Keep Original Atlases as well. Save it somewhere in our project. I will save it just here. Terrain merge, save it, and now we have those new terrain merge tiles, and in TileMap we can just select them, and easily we can draw even all at once if we would like to. Just a small note here, remember when you will be removing existing tiles, because unfortunately those tiles are linked to what is on the scene. So if I would remove this dirt, let's go to tileset and here remove it, you can see that all the tiles disappear with those weird errors. That is why it is important to plan ahead and try to do your merge at the very beginning of building a tileset. So now another interesting feature called patterns. So let's say I'm building here something a bit more complicated, more interesting. Let's say it will look like that. I will extend it to one more height. Okay, so we have this construction, and let's say we would like to now place it also somewhere here. We have two ways to do it. First, I can use this mouse tool and just select it. And now once it's selected, I will click draw, and I can draw it on a different place in our TileMap. But if you know that you will be using this shape constantly, or maybe you will be using it across different scenes and so on, you can create your own pattern. To do that, it's quite similar. You first go to Patterns tab, you then once again click Selection tool, select your shape, and press Command or Ctrl C to copy it. Then you click on Patterns and you press Command V to paste it. Now you have this terrain ready for you whenever you want to draw it. So you can, for example, draw something else. Let's say we are drawing some grass and so on and so on. But then we decide to draw it once more. So I can simply go to Patterns tab, click on it, and that is being offered as a group of tiles to easily draw it on our TileMap. You can also use those tools to horizontally or vertically flip it. So for example, I can flip it horizontally and have this different shape, which introduces a bit of variety to our map design. Okay, next feature of TileMaps I would like to show you are collisions. They of course do not change any look, but are very important for the game logic. For better demonstration, I will now create a new player. So first I will create character body 2D. Character body will have sprite and will also have collision shape 2D. For sprite, I will go with simply the built-in Godot icon. There is no need to go with anything more fancy for now. I will make it smaller, much smaller. Okay, for collision shape, I will simply go with rectangle shape. As you can see, character is behind the tile map, so we need to change ordering of it. Click on character body, then here on the right select ordering and set Z index to 1. Now our character is placed on the map. Let's move it somewhere else, but do not just click and move, because that will move the collision shape. Select character body 2D, and while holding Alt, move it somewhere on the map. And finally, let's also add script to it to introduce basic movement. So click on character body 2D, click add script. I will stay with default name, click create. As you can see, Godot tries to add some default script, but I will totally replace it. I found this extremely simple script on the web that introduces 4 direction movement. You can find link to it under the description. I will save it, and now let's press play to test if our character can move. Okay, and it works. You can move the character with arrows. Perfect. If you like to learn how to build your own game with moving characters from scratch, check out my free Godot platformer course, link in the description. So now we have this simple game with our graphics, but as you can see, our character can walk on all the hills, even on the map bounds. There are no limits to its position. So let's introduce collisions. To add collisions to our hills, click on Hills TileMap. Then here on TileSet, we need to enable physics layer. So let's add at least one physics layer. That setting does not immediately makes all blocks solid so that our character can't enter them. We first also need to define which tiles block player movement. To do that, go to TileSet, select the graphic you would like to modify, so this dirt, then go to Paint tool, and here from Paint properties, select physics layer. So far, none of the tiles have any physics properties. To change that, simply draw over all of them like that. That one change already introduced collisions to our game. So now when I try to go down, you can see I can't do it. When I try to go right to this hill, I'm also blocked, and so on and so on. But as you can see, it's a bit problematic because here is the upper limit of my character. I can't go any further. That is because when we defined those collisions, we defined that the whole tile should be blocked, while in reality only this part should be colliding with the player. To fix that, we can use this painting tool. So first click on this block, for example, and now we can define where the collision should be applied. So you can draw those 4 points like that, and once you are ready, just paint this collision on this block. To make it a bit easier, you can enable grid snapping. Click here and enable half pixel snap, and now drawing those collision shapes is a bit easier. This process is quite tedious, to be honest, but to make it a bit faster, once we prepared this block, you can click here, flip horizontally, and now we can paint this block. And so on and so on. Please give me a few seconds where I will prepare this whole graphic to have proper collisions. Okay, that's about right. Now let's restart the game and preview how it works. And now collisions should work much better. You can see that our character stops only near the very edge of the hill, so that works way better. I would like to show you the last example where we'll create a tree. So let's go to props 1 layer. Here I would like to import those trees, 3 PNG. Let's split it, nice. Then using TileMap tab, I will place it a few times on our map. So let's say like that, maybe one more tree here, here. By the way, those trees make a huge difference for our map design. And as you might have guessed, by default they are completely ignored by the physics engine. To fix that, we need to go to props 1, TileSet, then go to paint, and we need to paint those collisions. I would like to prepare a bit more sophisticated shape this time. Okay, something like that. Let's mirror it and place it here as well. So we paint those tiles near the bottom of the tree, near the trunk. But regarding the upper parts of the tree, I think that player should be able to walk behind the leaves, so I won't paint collision here. Now when we preview the game, you can see that I can no longer enter the trunk, but I am still above the leaves. It is actually very easy to fix that. Still in the paint tool, we can change paint properties to Z index, and now we can paint what is the Z index of each tile separately. So as you might remember, the whole tile map is Z index 0, then we have player at Z index 1, so let's make those 3 leaves placed at Z index 2. Now with this change, we still can't enter the bottom of the tree, but our character can nicely walk behind the 3 leaves, which produces this great immersive effect for our simple game. As you can see, TileMaps are a very powerful tool in Godot, and with very little amount of work, you can quickly create beautiful map for your game. As always, thanks a lot to my awesome patrons for supporting CoCode channel. See you on my website cocode.net.